The Shield of Valor. In a quiet suburban neighborhood in the deep south of the United States, the Harrison family had just moved into an old, charming house. James Harrison, a black man in his mid-30s, his wife, Tasha, and their two children, Marcus and Ava, were excited about starting fresh. They had been through a lot, moving across states, seeking a peaceful life in a neighborhood that seemed perfect at first glance. But not everyone was welcoming. The neighbors, a tight-knit group who lived next door, were immediately suspicious of the new arrivals. They had never seen a black family in the area, and rumors swirled through the town. At first, the racist comments were subtle, masked as concerned advice about fitting in. But over time, the tension escalated. One night, as James and his family sat in their living room, a loud knock echoed on their door. It was Mike, one of the neighbors, along with two of his friends. They stood outside with a level of hostility in their eyes, their words thinly veiled threats, suggesting that the family should keep to their own kind. James had dealt with racism his whole life, but it was different now. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for his family, for their peace of mind. Tasha was shaken, but James remained calm. He asked the men to leave, but they refused, shouting slurs and pushing past him into the yard. They began to surround him, taunting and threatening violence. But James wasn't scared. He knew exactly how to handle this. His past, something they could never imagine, had prepared him for moments like this. James slowly turned and walked toward the house, motioning to Tasha and the kids to stay inside. But just before he entered, he turned back to the men and said, "You don't know who I am, do you?" The question hung in the air, heavy and charged. The men scoffed, not realizing the gravity of his words. James walked inside the house and reappeared a moment later, carrying an old, worn duffel bag. He unzipped it slowly. Inside were photos, awards, and military patches, a history of service, sacrifice, and triumph. James wasn't just any man, he was a decorated former Navy SAAL, with a record of achievements and feats that most people could never fathom. He pulled out a photo, showing it to them. "This is me," he said. "I've been to places you wouldn't believe, seen things you can't imagine. I protected my country and my family from people far worse than you." The men stared at the photos, their faces draining of color as they realized the truth. This was not a man they could intimidate. The air shifted. There was a long, awkward silence before one of the men, Mike, backed away, suddenly fearful. You're a soldier?" Mike stammered. James nodded, his voice firm but calm. "I didn't just fight for my country. I fight for my family's right to live in peace. And if you ever come here again, you'll be fighting someone who has been to hell and back for his people. I'd suggest you think long and hard before testing me again." The three men, their bravado completely evaporated, turned without another word and hurried off the property. As they fled, they realized they had just encountered something they never expected: strength, dignity, and the power of a man who would go to any lengths to protect his family. The Harrison family didn't need to speak about the incident again. The neighbors knew their place, and the Harrisons, though quietly proud, went about their lives with renewed confidence. James' strength wasn't just in his physical prowess, but in his unshakable resolve to protect the people he loved. Over time, the tension in the neighborhood faded, as the racist behavior and whispers slowly disappeared. The Harrison family had not only stood their ground, they had made it clear that their family's honor and safety were not negotiable. In the end, it wasn't just the strength of James' past that won them respect. It was his unwavering love for his family, and his refusal to bow down to ignorance.